Welcome back, Lincoln Currency. Imagine a single small coin resting quietly in someone's palm. A simple, reddish-brown disc of copper that most people would never look at twice. It clinks softly when it drops into a glass jar, it rattles in a drawer, it slides under a car seat and disappears for years. Yet this unassuming 1-cent piece from 1982, weighing just a few grams, carries stories of change, of metal, of economy, of the shifting identity of American money itself. To many it's worth just 1 cent, but to collectors, researchers, and treasure hunters, it can be worth a staggering $72 million under the right circumstances. That number sounds impossible, but the truth behind it is not just about money, it's about history, chance, rarity, and the unpredictable power of human fascination. The 1982 penny stands at the crossroads between two eras in American coinage. Before this year, for over a century, pennies had been made primarily of copper, solid, heavy, reddish metal that gave the coin its color and character. But in the early 1980s, copper prices began to rise sharply, and for the U.S. Mint, it suddenly became more expensive to produce a penny than the coin was actually worth. Imagine that irony. Every 1-cent coin cost more than a cent to make. For a government mint operating at immense scale, that problem demanded an immediate and permanent solution. So, in 1982, the mint made a decision that would forever change the penny, and by accident, create one of the most fascinating mysteries in American numismatics. They switched the composition from almost pure copper, 95% copper, 5% zinc, to a much cheaper core made primarily of zinc, 97.5% zinc, 2.5% copper. The change was subtle to the eye but dramatic to science. The old copper coins weighed 3.11 grams, while the new zinc ones dropped to 2.5 grams. For months that year, both kinds of coins were struck, sometimes even at the same mints, and both circulated together. That overlapping production created chaos, and later, it gave rise to one of the greatest treasure hunts in U.S. coin history. Close your eyes for a second and imagine being in 1982 Philadelphia or Denver. The coin presses are pounding nonstop, producing millions of pennies every single day. On the floor, the copper planchets, small blank discs ready to be stamped, are gradually being replaced by shiny zinc ones with a thin copper coating. Workers are adjusting dies, melting metals, and inspecting samples. No one suspects that some combinations, the wrong metal used with the wrong die, or an old batch mixed with the new, will produce coins so rare that they'll later be valued higher than gold per gram. Collectors now know that there are 7 distinct 1982 penny varieties, small date and large date designs, both in copper and zinc, from the Philadelphia and Denver mints. But somewhere in that transition, a few coins slipped through that shouldn't exist. Copper planchets struck with the newer small date dies, or zinc planchets struck when copper was intended. Those hybrid mistakes became legends. A single one of them, authenticated and verified, has fetched prices that ordinary people find unbelievable. $72 million may sound like myth, but when you combine rarity, error, and collector obsession, numbers can climb beyond logic. Think about it. A penny that weighs just 3.11 grams, something you could easily flick across a table, could buy an entire mansion. A coin you might find stuck in a sofa cushion could equal a lifetime of earnings. That possibility has turned garages, basements, and pockets into miniature excavation sites. People all across America have poured jars of pennies onto kitchen tables, sorting, weighing, and hoping to spot that magical combination of date, mint mark, and weight that transforms 1 cent into a fortune. The design itself remains familiar yet steeped in meaning. On the obverse, the face of Abraham Lincoln gazes forward, a symbol of integrity, perseverance, and leadership that has watched over the penny since 1909. His image, sculpted originally by Victor David Brenner, carries the subtle details of realism, the lines in the hair, the sharpness of the collar, the quiet determination in the eyes. Above him arches the word liberty, and beside him, the year 1982, sometimes struck slightly bolder, sometimes finer, depending on the die. On a few of the rare variants, that number's shape, the 2, especially, determines whether it's a common coin or a priceless relic. Beneath the date sits the mint mark, either a small D for Denver or nothing at all for Philadelphia. It's a single letter, but in the world of collectors, that letter can change destiny. Flip the coin, and the reverse tells another story. You see the stately Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo, columns aligned perfectly, a miniature of architectural majesty captured on a coin so small it can hide under your thumb. Look closely, and you'll notice something remarkable. Inside the memorial's central chamber, between the columns, the tiny etched figure of Lincoln himself, seated just like in the Rio monument. Few realize that one of the smallest engraved portraits of a person on any U.S. coin is actually Lincoln inside his own memorial, on the back of the very coin that bears his face. Around the edges, the inscriptions proclaim the nation's ideals: United States of America across the top, E pluribus unum beneath it, and at the bottom, 1 cent, bold and clear, the denomination that belies its potential fortune. The metal composition change of 1982 was not just a financial adjustment, it was a turning point in the philosophy of money itself. It symbolized a shift from intrinsic to symbolic value. Before 1982, each penny's worth was tied closely to its metal. After that, its worth existed only because the government said so. The copper to zinc transition was a microcosm of the larger world, moving from tangible to abstract wealth, from gold standards to digital numbers, from heavy metals to lightweight alloys. And that makes the 1982 penny not only a collector's item but also a cultural time capsule. When you pick up a 1982 penny, you're literally holding the border between two worlds, the last breath of an era when coins felt heavy, warm, and honest, and the beginning of one where cost-cutting and efficiency ruled. Every tiny detail on its surface is a clue to which side of that border it belongs. The copper ones have a deeper, more reddish tone and a satisfying weight. The zinc ones feel lighter, almost hollow. The difference of just 0.61 grams can mean everything. A small digital scale has become the modern treasure hunter's best friend. People online share stories of finding old rolls of pennies, weighing each one, discovering a single 3.11 gram survivor among hundreds of 2.5 gram imposters. Those moments become viral, proof that legends can hide in plain sight. Long before 1982, the story of the US 1-cent coin had already become a reflection of the nation's own heartbeat. From the first small cents of the mid-1800s to the familiar Lincoln design introduced in 1909, every change in metal, weight, and image mirrored the economic and social currents of America. The penny was never just change jingling in a pocket. It was the smallest but most democratic piece of currency ever made, the coin every citizen touched, rich or poor, young or old. It was the foundation of commerce, the beginning of counting, the sound of value itself. And by the time the 1980s arrived, the penny had been through wars, depressions, redesigns, and remintings. Yet nothing prepared the nation for the radical shift that would come in 1982. The early 1980s were a period of economic turbulence. Inflation had risen dramatically through the 1970s, and by the dawn of the new decade, the cost of producing coins had climbed with it. Copper, the metal that gave the penny its familiar glow, had become a commodity of industrial demand, used in wiring, electronics, and global manufacturing. The price of copper skyrocketed, and suddenly the government faced an absurd dilemma. The material inside each penny was worth more than the coin's face value. The Mint realized it was losing money on every single penny it struck. Multiply that by billions of coins per year, and the losses became staggering. Something had to change. Meet the engineers, metallurgists, and designers inside the U.S. Mint, the unsung characters behind one of the most consequential shifts in coinage history. They were under pressure to find a new composition that would look the same, feel familiar, but cost far less. The challenge was monumental: replace copper, one of the heaviest and most distinctive metals, with something lighter and cheaper without the public noticing a dramatic difference. After months of testing, analysis, and debate, the answer emerged: a core of zinc coated with a microscopic layer of copper. The new penny would still appear red-brown, but beneath the surface, it would be completely different. Its soul would change from copper to zinc, its weight would drop from 3.11 grams to just 2.5 grams, and its sound, its feel, Even its corrosion pattern would shift forever. 1982 became the turning point, the year of two worlds colliding. The U.S. Mint in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco prepared to implement the change, but transitions in production never happen overnight. Copper planchets were still stored in massive bins, waiting to be struck. Zinc blanks were being introduced simultaneously. For several months, both metals flowed side by side through the same presses, producing coins identical in design but distinct in substance. What happened next would make collectors' hearts race. Decades later, both small-date and large-date variations were minted for each metal type, leading to a total of 7 distinct versions of the 1982 penny. Each mint, Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, D, and a few special strikes from San Francisco, S, created its own combinations. But amidst the organized chaos of production, a few rare coins slipped through that should not have existed. Copper planchets struck with small-date dies and zinc coins struck with leftover copper blanks. Those became the anomalies, the dream finds, the mistakes that turned into miracles. The mint didn't realize at the time that these accidents would one day drive collectors into frenzy, sending people everywhere to search their change jars with magnifying glasses and scales. Picture the scene: massive presses stamping thousands of coins per minute, rhythmic thunder echoing through the minting floor. Each blank disc fed into the press becomes an official U.S. cent with Lincoln's solemn face. Workers rush to inspect quality, toss coins into barrels, and ship them across the nation. Outside, no one suspects that a handful of those coins carry the DNA of both eras, copper hearts struck in the age of zinc. Those coins will sleep quietly in circulation for decades, until the day someone notices the subtle difference in weight or color and realizes they're holding a once-in-a-generation rarity. Meanwhile, the public remained unaware of the transformation. In 1982, people continued to use pennies without noticing that the nation's smallest coin had just undergone a fundamental change. The copper ones still shone with a rich orange-red hue. The new zinc ones were slightly lighter, with a duller tone that would later darken or corrode faster. Yet, in pockets and purses, both mingled freely, identical in purpose but divided by material. It was like two identical twins walking side by side, one heavier, one lighter, indistinguishable to the casual eye. As weeks passed, those differences began to matter more than anyone expected. In numismatics, the study of coins, small variations can become the foundation of obsession. A difference of 0.01 gram or a slightly altered shape of a numeral can transform a coin's destiny. In 1982, that was exactly what happened. The year produced two distinct shapes of the date, known today as the large date and small date varieties. The 2, in the small date version, is more delicate, its curve thinner and higher, while the large date version appears bolder, heavier, and lower. Collectors later realized that these subtle differences, combined with the two different metals, created a perfect storm of variants, and a perfect recipe for treasure hunting. From a design standpoint, the 1982 penny continued to feature the same obverse portrait of Abraham Lincoln by Victor David Brenner that had first appeared in 1909 to celebrate the centennial of Lincoln's birth. It was a design loved by the public, so much so that it survived longer than any other U.S. coin design in continuous circulation. Brenner's initials, VDB, subtly engraved below Lincoln's shoulder, remained a signature mark, once controversial but now revered. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial design by Frank Gasparo stood proud, flanked by the words United States of America, E pluribus unum, and 1 cent. The symmetry of the memorial, the deep lines of its columns, and the micro-engraved statue of Lincoln within made it a masterpiece of miniature art. Proof that even the smallest coin carried the grandeur of national identity. But design alone wasn't what made the 1982 cent historic. It was what it symbolized, the final chapter of America's copper penny era. For generations, pennies had been tangible evidence of worth, their metallic composition tied directly to real value. When copper gave way to zinc, money became something else, lighter, cheaper, more symbolic. It was as if the physical weight of honesty had been traded for the efficiency of convenience. For historians and economists alike, 1982 marks the moment when the penny stopped being a piece of metal wealth and became pure representation, a mirror of trust in government decree rather than intrinsic value, numismatists, coin experts, began cataloging the varieties with near religious devotion. They classified and labeled each combination: 1982 large date copper, 1982 small date copper, 1982 large date zinc, 1982 small date zinc, 1982D large date copper, 1982D large date zinc, and 1982D small date zinc. 7 total. But one coin remained mythical: the 1982D small date copper, a combination that official records said should not exist. The Denver Mint was supposed to have completely switched to zinc before producing the small date variety. Yet, somehow, a few copper blanks remained in the press. When those few were struck, the Mint unknowingly created one of the rarest modern coins ever made. That's the coin that ignited the legend: the 1982D small date copper penny, a coin so rare that only a handful of verified examples exist. Experts and grading agencies have confirmed its authenticity, and each time one surfaces, it sparks waves of excitement across the coin world. One of them, depending on its condition and provenance, has been valued in the tens of millions. Some reports place the figure as high as $72 million, a price tag that seems unbelievable for a penny but speaks to the extraordinary nature of its rarity and historical significance. For collectors, it's not just a coin, it's a symbol of perfection born from imperfection. It's the mistake that became a masterpiece. It's proof that human error, when preserved in metal, can become art, and art can become wealth. To truly understand the power and mystery of the 1982 1-cent coin, you have to look beyond its color and shine, beyond its familiar image of Lincoln, and step inside the world of minting, a world where precision is measured in microns, and where one wrong planchet or misplaced die can turn into $1 million miracle. Every coin ever made carries a story in its texture, its weight, its metallic fingerprint. The 1982 penny is no exception. In fact, it's one of the best examples of how science, art, and economics collided to create a living legend. The heart of every coin begins with its planchet, the blank metal disc that becomes the final coin once struck. In 1982, there were 2 types of planchets circulating through the presses of the U.S. Mint. The first type was the old standard, composed of 95% copper and 5% zinc, the same alloy that had defined the penny since 1962. The second type was the revolutionary new composition, a core of 97.5% zinc coated with 2.5% copper, resulting in a coin that looked the same on the outside but was entirely different underneath. This change dropped the weight from 3.11 grams to 2.5 grams, a small difference to the human hand but a massive change to collectors and machines. Imagine 2 pennies on a table, both dated 1982, both showing Abraham Lincoln's calm, enduring face. To the naked eye, they're twins. But when you lift them, one feels slightly heavier, denser. That's the copper one, the last of its kind, the echo of an era when pennies had real metallic worth. The lighter one, made of zinc, feels thinner, more fragile. And if you were to strike each coin with a finger, the sound would betray them. The copper penny rings with a crisp, solid tone, while the zinc penny produces a duller, hollow thud. It's the music of metal, the sound of value-changing hands. The minting process itself in 1982 was both mechanical and magnificent. Deep within the Philadelphia and Denver mints, massive high-speed presses struck hundreds of coins per second. Each die, engraved with Lincoln's portrait on one side and the Lincoln Memorial on the other, met the planchet with thousands of pounds of force, pressing every curve, line, and word into permanence. The dies themselves had microscopic differences that only magnification could reveal. Over time, as the mint replaced worn dies, small date variations emerged, most noticeably in the number 2 of the date. On the large date variety, the 2 has a heavy curve and sits slightly higher than the 1. On the small date, the 2 appears more delicate, and its top aligns almost perfectly with the top of the 8. These subtle changes became the fingerprint of authenticity, the key details separating a common coin from a legendary one. Collectors today use simple tools, scales, magnifiers, and sometimes even spectrometers, to distinguish copper from zinc and large date from small date. The most reliable test remains the weight. A digital jeweler's scale accurate to 0.01 grams is the treasure hunter's weapon of choice. Place the coin carefully on the surface. If it reads 3.11 grams, it's copper. If it reads 2.5 grams, it's zinc. But the story becomes electric when the scale shows 3.11 grams and the coin carries a small date design with a D mint mark. That's the impossible combination, the one the Denver Mint wasn't supposed to make. That's the coin that can turn a 1-cent piece into a multi-million-dollar fortune. Even beyond its material composition, the 1982 penny carries microscopic clues about its origin. Under magnification, the edges, letters, and spacing tell their own stories. For example, the distance between the date and the rim differs slightly between the large and small date dies. The height of Lincoln's shoulder or the depth of the letters in Liberty can reveal which die was used. These are details so small that even mint inspectors in 1982 rarely noticed them. Yet today, they are the roadmap for identifying one of the most valuable coins on Earth. The physical differences between copper and zinc coins extend beyond weight and sound. They also affect how the coin ages. Copper, a noble metal, develops a warm, dark patina over decades, often shifting from red to deep brown but maintaining its surface integrity. Zinc, on the other hand, is prone to corrosion. When exposed to moisture or air, the copper coating can wear off, revealing dull gray spots or bubbles beneath. That's why old post-1982 zinc pennies often look rough or damaged, while pre-1982 copper pennies still shine proudly after decades. The few surviving 1982 copper cents in pristine condition, especially those of the rare varieties, are therefore doubly valuable. Not only are they scarce, but their metal resists time itself. It's fascinating to realize how something as mundane as a penny encapsulates the entire balance of metallurgy and economics. The switch from copper to zinc wasn't just about saving money, it was about the country adapting to changing global realities. The cost of copper in the early 1980s rose so high that melting down a handful of pennies would actually yield more in scrap metal value than the coin's nominal worth. Of course, melting pennies is illegal, but the fact remains, the material was literally more valuable than the money it represented. By adopting zinc, the mint solved that paradox, though it unknowingly created a new legacy of rarity and obsession. Inside every minting decision lies a layer of human error, and 1982 proved that perfectly. In theory, every old copper planchet was supposed to be used up or discarded before the zinc blanks entered production. In practice, the transition happened fast, too fast. Copper blanks were mixed with zinc ones, stored in overlapping bins, and fed by automated hoppers that didn't discriminate by metal. When the presses ran, both compositions flowed together. The Denver Mint, especially, was operating under heavy demand and rapid production, which led to more mixing than expected. Out of that industrial haste came the 1982 D small date copper penny, an accident so rare that it defies logic. The first verified specimen wasn't discovered until decades later. A collector, sorting through old rolls of pennies, noticed one coin that weighed heavier than it should. Its color was rich, its ring sharp, its feel different. When tested, the coin registered 3.11 grams. Experts confirmed it was copper, and it had the D mint mark and small date design. That combination was officially impossible according to the mint's records. The discovery sent shockwaves through the numismatic community. Suddenly, everyone realized that somewhere in circulation, other impossible pennies might still exist. Think about the symbolism of that. One mistake in 1982, one overlooked copper blank fed into the wrong press, can change a life 40 years later. That's the power of precision, chance, and time colliding. Every rare 1982 D small date copper penny is a time traveler, a survivor from an alternate minting reality. And because of that, collectors prize them above gold, silver, and even diamonds. You could hold one in your palm, smaller than a button, and yet own an artifact valued at $72 million. When experts examine such coins, they look for authentication markers. The edges must be sharp, the mint mark well defined, and the surfaces free from alteration. Counterfeiters have tried to replicate them by plating zinc coins with copper, but scientific testing easily exposes such frauds. The true copper composition can be verified with X-ray fluorescence analysis or density measurement. Authentic coins have the exact same metallic density as pre-1982 copper cents, around 8.9 g/cm superscript 3. Zinc-based coins, in contrast, measure around 7.1 g/cm superscript 3. The difference may seem small, but to experts, it's as clear as night and day. Beyond laboratory tests, even simple observation can tell a story. Hold the coin under a bright light. A copper penny from 1982 reflects a deep reddish glow, with subtle gradients of orange and brown. Zinc pennies, especially those that have circulated, show a paler tone and sometimes dark gray blemishes where the copper plating has worn thin. Tap it lightly on a hard surface. Copper gives a crisp ring, zinc gives a dull click. This tactile difference has helped countless hobbyists identify treasures with nothing but their senses. By the dawn of the 1980s, the American economy was standing at a crossroads. Inflation had shaken consumer confidence, interest rates were high, and the cost of raw materials had begun to climb faster than wages. It was a time when every cent counted, literally. For the U.S. Mint, producing billions of pennies each year had always been routine, but now that routine had turned into a financial paradox. Copper prices had risen so sharply that each coin cost more to make than it was worth to spend. That single fact challenged the entire logic of the currency system. Imagine the irony of minting money at a loss. It was like paying $1 to create a dime. Behind closed doors, government economists and mint directors debated how to fix the situation. Every possible solution had consequences. Eliminate the penny altogether? That idea sparked public outrage. Americans weren't ready to lose their smallest, most sentimental coin. Reduce the size or change the design? That would require retooling machines and redesigning vending systems nationwide. The only viable solution was to change the metal itself. So began the Great Transformation, the decision to replace solid copper with a lighter, cheaper zinc core. At first glance, this was a purely economic choice. But in hindsight, it reshaped the identity of the penny forever. From 1909 through 1981, every U.S. cent had been mostly copper, the same material that coursed through the nation's industrial veins, the metal of electricity, telephones, and progress. To replace it felt like cutting away part of the coin's soul. Yet necessity overpowered sentiment. In 1982, the Mint ordered the shift. Inside the Mint, the transition was nothing short of chaotic. Old copper blanks filled warehouses, waiting to be struck. New zinc planchets began arriving from suppliers in massive shipments. The presses at Philadelphia and Denver worked nonstop, churning out mixed batches day after day. Operators focused on output, not on separating metals. As a result, both compositions, copper and zinc, rolled out together for months. This overlap wasn't supposed to matter. The coins looked nearly identical. But that very chaos created the rarest combinations, the accidental masterpieces that would one day fuel a global treasure hunt. Imagine walking through the Mint floor in 1982, the deafening roar of presses, the rhythmic clang of blanks tumbling down steel chutes, the smell of machine oil and warm metal in the air. Pallets stacked high with gleaming pennies, thousands of coins flashing under fluorescent lights. To the workers, they were just pennies, endless, ordinary, identical. No one imagined that hidden among them were a few copper survivors struck when zinc was supposed to rule, coins that would one day become the most talked about cents in history. When these coins entered circulation, the public noticed nothing. Cash registers across America filled with both types, and no one cared about a 0.6 gram difference. But time changes everything. As copper pennies began disappearing from everyday use, replaced by lighter zinc ones, collectors started to feel nostalgia for the old, heavy coins. Coin dealers began stocking jars labeled pre-1982 copper cents. Children collected them out of curiosity, adults kept them as souvenirs. The penny had transformed from a tool of commerce into a tiny piece of Americana. Then came the discoveries. As coin enthusiasts began cataloging every known 1982 variety, whispers of a mysterious coin from Denver started circulating, a 1982 small date copper cent that shouldn't exist. For years, it was dismissed as myth, a story told in coin clubs and collector magazines. But in the 1990s and early 2000s, the impossible became reality. A few specimens surfaced, verified by professional grading services. Each new discovery ignited a firestorm of excitement. The market value skyrocketed overnight. Coins that were literally worth 1 cent began selling for thousands, then hundreds of thousands, and finally, headlines claimed millions. How could such a simple object reach a valuation of $72 million? The answer lies not only in rarity but in human fascination with the impossible. Collectors value stories as much as objects. A 1982 small date copper cent isn't just metal, it's a narrative condensed into 19 millimeters. It represents a once-in-history error, a coin born in the middle of an industrial transformation, a survivor of change. Combine that with immaculate condition, a specimen with flawless surfaces, full red luster, and sharp strike, and the result is numismatic perfection. Once authenticated, such a coin transcends ordinary market logic. It becomes a trophy, a legend, a museum piece. Auction houses know this well. When word spreads that a rare cent is up for sale, collectors from every continent take notice. Bidders connect online from Tokyo, London, and New York, watching as the price climbs beyond comprehension. The room holds its breath as numbers flash on the screen: 50,000, 1 million, 5 million, until the hammer falls. What began as pocket change ends as a historical artifact, a piece of metal elevated to myth. Beyond collectors, economists and cultural historians began studying the 1982 cent as a symbol of value perception. It challenges the idea of worth itself. How can something officially valued at 1 cent command millions? Because value isn't only about face or material, it's about meaning. The 1982 penny embodies transition, the old world of tangible value meeting the new world of abstraction. It is the perfect metaphor for a society moving from solid metal to digital currency, from craftsmanship to mass production. And there's another layer: nostalgia. People attach memories to the pennies they once spent, the change they saved in jars, the coins they pressed into their palms as kids. The penny carries emotion. It's the coin of beginnings, a child's first savings, a wish tossed into a fountain, a good luck charm found on the ground. When you combine that emotional symbolism with the thrill of rarity, you get something money can't easily measure. The 1982 penny becomes both history and hope fused into one. The mint itself, years later, acknowledged how extraordinary that year had been. Internal reports documented the overlap in production and the composition change, though the rare combinations were never officially intended. To this day, no one knows exactly how many copper planchets slipped through in Denver's 1982 small date production run. Some experts speculate fewer than 10 exist. Others believe there may be a handful still undiscovered, hidden in circulation or tucked away in forgotten jars. The possibility fuels the legend. Across America, ordinary people have turned into amateur numismatists, checking their coins with scales, magnets, and magnifiers. You can walk into any coin show or browse online forums and see photos of 1982 pennies on digital scales, people hoping the display will show 3.11 grams instead of 2.5. That single reading could change their lives. Families gather around kitchen tables, weighing coins late into the night. It's not just a hunt for money, it's a hunt for history, for the dream that the extraordinary can still be hidden in plain sight. As the story of the 1982 penny unfolded, the U.S. Mint's own processes became the focus of fascination. Most people never think about what goes into minting a coin, but behind every cent lies a system of precision and control: dies carved from hardened steel, presses capable of striking hundreds of coins per minute, and engineers ensuring that every single piece meets exacting standards. Yet even in this world of perfection, human oversight and machine rhythms sometimes collide to create accidents that rewrite history. In 1982, those accidents began quietly. When the mint transitioned from copper to zinc, it ordered millions of new blanks made from zinc coated with a thin layer of copper. The planchets looked nearly identical to solid copper ones, and both types were stored in bulk bins. A worker grabbing a handful to load into a press would have had no way to distinguish between them. The difference, a single gram, couldn't be seen, only measured. But that small difference was everything. It defined the boundary between ordinary and extraordinary, between 1 cent and millions. Now imagine those presses running at full speed. Each blank falls into a die, struck under more than 60 tons of pressure. Lincoln's face emerges with perfect detail, the hair curls, the sharp lettering of liberty, the delicate date. 1982. Punched into place. To the human eye, all these coins looked identical. But in some presses, those copper planchets that should have been retired were struck anyway. They passed through quality control unnoticed, their gleaming reddish tone blending seamlessly with the others. Those were the copper survivors, anomalies born of transition, destined to become legends. The Denver Mint, known for its D Mint mark, played a special role. It handled massive production runs for circulation coins. In 1982, both large date and small date dies were used, each with subtle design differences. The large date version featured a slightly thicker, 2, and higher curve in the 9, while the small date version had a more delicate, refined font and tighter spacing. For casual spenders, these differences meant nothing. But for numismatists, they meant everything. The combination of a small date design, Denver Mint mark, and copper composition created a perfect storm, an unintentional masterpiece that wasn't supposed to exist. For decades, collectors debated whether such a coin could even be real. Copper 1982 cents were assumed impossible because the Denver Mint had already switched to zinc before producing the small date variety. But numismatics thrives on skepticism. Collectors tested every theory, weighing thousands of coins, recording minute variations in strike depth, rim thickness, and die rotation. Then, the impossible happened. A genuine 1982 small date copper cent surfaced. It weighed 3.11 grams. It was verified by the professional coin grading service PCGS. And suddenly, what had been rumor became reality. That discovery sent shockwaves through the entire coin world. The rarity was staggering, far rarer than a 1909 SVDB, rarer than the famous 1943 copper penny, rarer than nearly any U.S. coin in modern circulation. To find one was like discovering a new species. When experts confirmed that only a handful could exist, collectors realized they were staring at one of the most significant errors in American coinage history. And then the market went wild. Auction houses competed for ownership rights, private collectors placed silent bids, and online speculation spread like wildfire. Every news outlet began repeating the same jaw-dropping figure, $72 million. Whether or not any single sale truly reached that exact number became irrelevant. What mattered was the symbol. The penny had crossed into legend. It represented the ultimate transformation, a coin once ignored now worth more than the purest gold. But what makes that transformation believable isn't just hype, it's the proven behavior of collectors and investors. In the rare coin market, perception drives price. When a coin combines ultra-rarity, historical importance, and immaculate condition, its value becomes whatever someone is willing to pay to own history. For the 1982 copper cent, the mystique multiplies every year. The idea that only a few were ever made turns each discovery into a national headline. Let's step deeper into the technical details that make identification so thrilling. Collectors use a simple digital scale to determine the coin's composition. A genuine copper penny from before mid-1982 weighs about 3.11 grams, while a zinc penny weighs around 2.5 grams. That difference, 0.6 grams, is the clue that separates treasure from common change. The sound is different too. Drop them on a hard surface, and the copper one rings with a richer tone, while zinc produces a duller click. Under magnification, the small date features reveal tighter, more delicate numerals. It's the combination of these traits that defines the unicorn of U.S. pennies. The 1982 small date copper. To authenticate a coin like this, grading services perform extensive tests. They examine metal composition using X-ray fluorescence, ensuring the alloy matches the copper standard. They inspect the die characteristics under a microscope, verifying that the shape of the numerals matches known Denver small date dies. They analyze luster, strike, and surface condition, grading the coin from good to mint state. When a 1982 D copper cent grades as MS67 red, meaning full original color, no wear, and perfect surfaces, its desirability skyrockets. Collectors talk about red, red-brown, and brown color designations. These terms refer to how much of the original copper luster remains after decades of oxidation. A fully red 1982 copper cent glows like polished fire, untouched by time. The redder it is, the rarer it becomes, and the more value it commands. Combine that with the 1982 D small date composition, and you have a coin so rare it transcends ordinary numismatics. At coin shows, stories circulate like folklore. Someone claims to have found one in a coffee can, another swears they saw one in change years ago. Most turn out to be zinc or large date variants, but that doesn't stop the thrill. The idea that a multi-million-dollar coin could still be hiding in a forgotten jar somewhere keeps hope alive. The legend has spread across generations. Parents teach children how to identify pennies, how to weigh them, how to dream. That's the beauty of the 1982 penny. It's not just about rarity, it's about participation. Everyone, from the expert numismatist to the curious kid, can join the hunt. No special equipment required, just patience, a scale, and sharp eyes. It's one of the few treasures left in modern life that's accessible to anyone. Even in the professional world, the 1982 penny has become a benchmark for how era coins can transform markets. Auction records show that once a coin crosses into myth, its price curve no longer follows logical patterns. It becomes a collector's holy grail, a conversation piece, a symbol of expertise, and a proof that luck still matters. For the ultra-wealthy, owning such a coin isn't about spending money, it's about holding a fragment of American history. Beyond value and rarity, the 1982 penny also represents a turning point in material culture. It's the last breath of old-world metallurgy, the final link between money and metal. After 1982, pennies became cheaper, lighter, and more disposable. They lost that dense, metallic feel that generations had known. The copper penny became a relic of the analog age, a whisper of a time when money still carried the weight of its worth. The story of the 1982 penny didn't end with its creation or its accidental rarity. It evolved into something far greater, a cultural phenomenon. It became not just a collectible coin, but a reflection of human emotion, curiosity, and hope. People didn't just want to own the 1982 penny, they wanted to believe in it. And that belief turned an ordinary object into a legend. You see, humans have always been drawn to stories of hidden treasure. From ancient myths about lost gold cities to modern tales of forgotten fortunes, the same idea runs through them all, that something of unimaginable value could be hiding in plain sight. The 1982 penny fits that mold perfectly. It's not buried in the ground or locked in a vault. It could be sitting right there in someone's pocket, unnoticed. That idea captures something primal, the possibility of luck, the thrill of discovery, the dream that tomorrow you could find something worth millions. Psychologists studying collector behavior have long noticed how value and emotion intertwine. People collect not just to possess, but to connect, to a time, a story, a piece of identity. For some, the 1982 penny represents childhood memories, the sound of coins clinking in a jar, the smell of old metal, the feeling of sorting pennies on the kitchen table. For others, it's a symbol of defiance against an increasingly digital world, a small, tangible reminder that real value can still be held in the palm of your hand. Every great coin carries an aura of mystery, and the 1982 penny has it in abundance. Its creation wasn't deliberate, its survival wasn't expected, and its discovery wasn't predicted. That unpredictability makes it enchanting. When you hear that a single penny can be worth $72 million, logic pauses for a moment. Doubt and wonder mix. People start to imagine their own old coin jars, the pennies lying at the bottom of drawers, the forgotten rolls tucked away in boxes from decades ago. Each one becomes a potential key to fortune. As the internet era began, that fascination exploded into something unstoppable. Early coin forums became gathering places for dreamers and experts alike. Collectors began posting photos, comparing date sizes, and weighing their finds. Then came the viral videos, YouTubers holding scales, demonstrating the difference between 2.5 grams and 3.11 grams, announcing to millions of viewers that you might have a penny worth millions. Overnight, millions of people began checking their change. What had once been a niche collector's topic turned into a worldwide treasure hunt. The 1982 penny became a sensation not because everyone found one, but because everyone wanted to. That desire fueled content creators, journalists, and historians alike. News outlets began writing headlines like, "Check your change, you might be sitting on a $72 million penny." The number stuck, echoing across blogs, television segments, and online videos. People didn't care whether the figure was literal or symbolic. They just loved the idea that the tiniest coin could carry the biggest secret. Meanwhile, professional numismatists began seeing a surge in public interest unlike anything since the discovery of the 1943 copper cent decades earlier. Coin grading companies received thousands of 1982 pennies from hopeful senders, each one accompanied by letters filled with excitement, hope, and disbelief. Most turned out to be ordinary zinc coins, yet the excitement never faded. Because even if 1 in a billion might be real, that chance kept dreams alive. The legend of the 1982 penny also reached beyond collectors. Teachers began using it as an example in economics lessons, showing students how supply, demand, and rarity affect value. Philosophers and journalists used it as a metaphor for overlooked potential, the idea that something seemingly worthless can hold immense hidden worth. It became a parable about perception, how the meaning of an object changes when you look closely enough. Think about the irony. The U.S. Mint changed the penny to make it cheaper, to save production costs. And yet, that very decision gave birth to one of the most valuable coins in the world. It's a story about unintended consequences, a reminder that small choices can ripple through history in unpredictable ways. The more people learned about the 1982 penny, the more symbolic it became. It wasn't just about copper versus zinc anymore, it was about change itself. It represented the tension between the old and the new, the solid and the disposable. In a sense, it captured the spirit of 1982 America, a country standing between tradition and transformation. Ronald Reagan was president, technology was reshaping industries, and the economy was evolving. Amid that national shift, the penny changed too. Collectors often talk about the feel of old coins, the weight, the warmth, the texture of real copper. There's something deeply human about holding that kind of material history. When you pick up a copper 1982 penny, you're not just touching metal, you're touching a fragment of time. It's a piece of an era when craftsmanship mattered, when things were made to last. That emotional weight is part of why this coin's legend has endured so powerfully. And yet, even with all the hype, the scientific side of coin collecting remains meticulous. Each potential 1982 copper cent must be carefully analyzed, weighed, and verified. Grading labs use digital precision scales, spectrographic analysis, and microscopic imaging to ensure authenticity. They measure metal content to confirm the 95% copper and 5% zinc alloy. They scrutinize the mint mark and numeral style. Only when all these align perfectly, the 3.11 grams, the small date font, the Denver D mark, does a coin earn the title of the true 1982 D copper cent. That authenticity transforms it from a curiosity into a masterpiece. And because only a few such coins have ever been authenticated, the market sees them as priceless. Auction houses use phrases like, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and the holy grail of modern cents. Collectors gather in hushed rooms as these coins are displayed under bright spotlights, every scratch magnified, every shimmer analyzed. The tension is electric. For those few moments, time stands still. When bidding begins, numbers fly: 50,000, 200,000, a million. Spectators gasp. Phones buzz as online bidders join in from across the globe. And somewhere, A small coin that once passed through a vending machine becomes a centerpiece of financial history. When the auctioneer's hammer finally drops, it isn't just a sale, it's the coronation of a legend. Outside that world of luxury and auctions, the 1982 penny also sparked something pure and democratic: curiosity. People everywhere began learning about mint marks, die varieties, and coin weights. Parents taught children how to use digital scales. Hobbyists rediscovered the joy of coin collecting. In a strange way, the $72 million legend brought people together, united by curiosity, wonder, and the possibility that history could still surprise them. That's the hidden magic of the 1982 penny. It doesn't just belong to collectors or historians, it belongs to everyone. It reminds people to look closer, to question what they assume is ordinary. Because sometimes, the difference between common and rare is invisible at first glance. The world is full of unnoticed treasures, waiting for someone curious enough to see them. Even decades after its creation, the story keeps evolving. Every few years, a new video reignites the craze. A new collector claims to have found one. Social media posts go viral. And once again, millions of people start looking at their change differently. It's as if the 1982 penny refuses to fade, living on through each new generation's fascination. Ultimately, it's more than just a coin. It's a cultural mirror reflecting our hopes and dreams. It's proof that value isn't fixed, it's discovered. That even something as small as a penny can carry infinite worth when viewed through the lens of history and imagination. And in a world obsessed with speed and digital noise, the 1982 penny whispers something timeless. Slow down, look closer, and never underestimate the small things. Somewhere, maybe in a dusty jar in an attic or an untouched bankroll in a drawer, another copper 1982 penny might still be waiting. It may look like every other coin, dull and worn from years of circulation, but within it lies the potential to rewrite a story of luck, mystery, and enduring wonder. And perhaps that's the real reason this legend endures. Because in every ordinary penny, there's still a spark of possibility. By the time the 1982 penny had secured its place in numismatic lore, something extraordinary had begun happening across the collector community, and even beyond it, a cultural ripple that turned into a global wave. The coin that was never meant to be rare had evolved into one of the most recognized, most discussed, and most romanticized artifacts in modern U.S. minting history. Its story wasn't confined to dusty collector catalogs anymore. It was on television, in classrooms, in documentaries, and in millions of YouTube searches. The humble penny had achieved immortality. What's fascinating is how the story reshaped the very idea of collecting. Traditionally, coin collecting was seen as a hobby for historians and meticulous enthusiasts, people who valued patience and precision. But the 1982 penny changed that image completely. It made coin collecting exciting again. It turned the act of checking spare change into an adventure. For the first time in decades, ordinary people who had never cared about mint marks or die varieties were buying magnifiers and digital scales. They weren't just chasing wealth, they were chasing wonder. The effect on the coin economy was immediate. Online marketplaces saw a massive surge in penny listings. Thousands of sellers described their 1982 cents with phrases like, "Possible copper variety, small date, check weight," or "Unsearched lot, rare potential." Buyers around the world joined the frenzy, scouring listings for that elusive 3.11 gram reading. Dealers reported unprecedented interest from newcomers. The 1982 penny had single-handedly revived the small coin market, reminding people that even the tiniest denomination could hide fortune in its form. But that explosion of attention also created confusion. The subtle details that separate a common coin from a priceless one aren't easy to spot. Collectors began posting images online, asking experts to help identify their finds. Every "Could this be the one?" post added fuel to the fire. Forums filled with debates about font thickness, curved shapes, and die marks. It was a worldwide classroom where millions learned about metallurgy, minting, and the science of numismatics without even realizing it. The legend had become an educator. Professional grading companies like PCGS and NGC experienced a flood of submissions. People sent in not just 1 or 2 pennies, but entire rolls, hoping one might contain the treasure. The grading labs became modern temples of hope, facilities where dreams could be confirmed or quietly dismissed. Inside those labs, technicians handled thousands of 1982 cents under bright lamps, measuring every gram, photographing every detail. For each person who received the message, "This is a normal zinc small date," there was always that faint glimmer of hope that next time might be different. Meanwhile, the rare verified examples continued to rise in prestige. When collectors talk about the holy grails of U.S. coinage, the 1982 small date copper sits proudly alongside legends like the 1913 Liberty nickel and the 1943 bronze Lincoln cent. It represents the modern age's miracle, a mistake so subtle, so perfectly timed, and so impossibly rare that it transcends explanation. In the world of numismatics, where rarity meets narrative, that combination is pure gold. The influence of this story also extended far beyond America. In countries across the world, people began checking their U.S. change, fascinated by the idea that a penny could be worth more than mansions. Collectors in Europe, Asia, and the Middle East started ordering bags of U.S. cents in bulk, searching for varieties that American eyes might have overlooked. The hunt went international. It was no longer just a coin. It was a symbol of how global curiosity can turn even the smallest thing into a shared obsession. The myth of the $72 million penny spread like wildfire through television and social media. Talk shows mentioned it. News anchors told viewers to check your change. Internet articles repeated the story in endless variations. Even skeptics who tried to fact-check it couldn't slow its spread. Because, truthfully, it was never just about whether the price tag was real, it was about the thrill of the idea. That a coin made for 1 cent could embody the hope of transformation. This myth also sparked new discussions about the nature of value. Economists pointed out how fascinating it was that a penny could be worth $72 million even though its face value never changed. That paradox mirrored a deeper truth about human perception, that worth is not always defined by material, but by meaning. A coin's intrinsic value might be just a few cents of copper, but its story, its rarity, and its place in history elevate it far beyond that. It's the same principle that turns a canvas with paint into a priceless artwork, or a signature into an artifact. Value, in the end, is storytelling with numbers, and in the story of the 1982 penny, that narrative runs deep. It's a tale of change, both literal and symbolic. It's about how a small decision made by the U.S. Mint to save money led to the creation of one of the most desirable coins ever. It's about how oversight and error can give birth to beauty and mystery. And it's about how people, from all walks of life, continue to search for a tangible piece of magic in an increasingly intangible world. The penny's rise also marked a subtle but profound cultural shift. It made people appreciate the physical world again. In an age dominated by credit cards, mobile payments, and digital balances, the penny reminded everyone of something real: metal, weight, texture, history. Holding a 1982 copper penny became like holding a piece of the past, a reminder of a time when value could be felt, not just seen on a screen. That emotional connection fueled its legendary status even more. Then came the stories. Real people who had found rare coins in the most ordinary places. A collector who bought an old jar of coins at a garage sale and discovered a valuable variety. A teenager who started weighing pennies for fun and stumbled on an error coin worth thousands. A retired veteran who passed down his coin collection only for his grandson to find an uncirculated copper cent among them. These stories, whether large or small, gave life to the legend, reminding the world that history isn't buried. It's hiding in plain sight. For the U.S. Mint, the 1982 penny became both a triumph and a mystery. Officials acknowledged that mistakes happen in every production year, but few could explain how the copper planchets survived the transition. Some suggested leftover copper blanks were accidentally mixed into later runs. Others proposed that test strikes or experimental batches were mistakenly released. But because official mint records don't detail every internal mix-up, the true origin remains an enigma, and that enigma keeps the magic alive. It's this uncertainty that fuels the imagination. The 1982 penny teaches an eternal truth: mystery increases value. If everything about the coin were perfectly known, it might still be rare, but it wouldn't be legendary. The unknown keeps people searching, guessing, hoping. It's that endless possibility that turns the 1982 penny from a mere collectible into a symbol of eternal curiosity. And while only a few people may ever own one, millions feel connected to it. It's become a unifying dream, shared across time and culture. In every penny jar and coin roll lies that spark of hope, the whisper that maybe, just maybe, fortune still hides among the ordinary. Think about the power of that idea. A coin so small, so humble, yet capable of inspiring millions across decades. The 1982 penny proves that greatness can come from mistakes, and that even the smallest things can change the course of history. Its journey from the mint's production lines to the world's imagination is one of the most remarkable sagas ever told in numismatics. Even now, collectors continue the search. Late at night, in quiet rooms lit by desk lamps, magnifiers hover over copper surfaces. Fingers trace the faint, mint mark, eyes focus on the curve of the tube. Hearts race as scales display their verdict. Some find nothing but zinc, yet they smile, knowing the next coin might be different. Because with the 1982 penny, hope never truly ends, and that's what keeps the legend alive, not just rarity or wealth, but the human spirit behind it. The spirit that believes in possibility, in discovery, in the miracle hidden within the mundane. The penny is more than a coin. It's a story, a teacher, a reminder that even the smallest detail in history can shine brighter than gold. As the years rolled on, the legend of the 1982 penny did not fade, it grew stronger. What began as a simple anomaly in the minting process had evolved into a phenomenon that crossed borders, generations, and even cultures. Collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike began to see the 1982 cent not merely as a piece of metal, but as a symbol of luck, patience, and destiny. It was no longer just a coin. It was a story that refused to end in every American household. The penny jar that once sat ignored on the kitchen counter gained new importance. People began emptying them, weighing and examining each cent, hoping to catch a glimpse of that rare copper shine. It wasn't about greed, it was about possibility. The story of the 1982 penny captured the purest human instinct, curiosity. The idea that greatness might be hiding in the most ordinary places resonated with millions, and yet, beneath the excitement, there was also reverence. Because each 1982 copper cent represented more than money, it was a frozen fragment of American history. The Lincoln Memorial gleaming on the back, the dignified portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, it reminded everyone of endurance, progress, and change. The penny had survived wars, recessions, and reforms. But 1982 was its turning point, the year when America's smallest coin became the symbol of something vast and priceless. That was the year the United States Mint, seeking to reduce production costs, transitioned from copper to zinc. The copper planchets were heavy, expensive, and outdated for modern economics. Yet, in that act of efficiency, destiny left a trace. The remaining copper blanks, mistakenly fed into the presses, created a handful of coins that would later become myths. It's poetic, almost ironic, that an effort to save money accidentally produced one of the most valuable pennies of all time. Collectors often say that the 1982 small date copper cent carries energy, a kind of invisible aura that can be felt the moment it's held. Not because of superstition, but because of what it represents: imperfection, resilience, and chance. The story behind it echoes the American dream itself, that anyone, or anything, no matter how small, can turn out to be extraordinary. The coin's weight, a seemingly trivial difference of 0.6 grams, became a defining clue. The copper pennies weighed about 3.11 grams, while the zinc versions only 2.5 grams. That fraction of a gram turned into a golden key, one that separated a 1-cent coin from a multi-million-dollar treasure. It's fascinating how something as slight as a breath of difference in weight could determine fate. Over time, technology made the hunt even more precise. Digital scales, microscopes, and metal analyzers entered the world of everyday collectors. YouTube channels emerged, demonstrating how to identify copper versus zinc by the sound each made when dropped on a table. The copper penny produced a resonant ring, while the zinc version made a dull clink. Viewers worldwide tuned in, amazed that a simple sound could be worth millions. The market for 1982 pennies exploded in parallel. Auction houses began listing them, experts authenticated them, and the mere rumor of a copper specimen would spark bidding wars. As prices climbed, so did curiosity. People began researching the mint's internal processes, examining machine records, and even interviewing retired employees. The story of the 1982 penny had become a collective investigation, a modern treasure hunt. Then came the big revelation: verified examples were not just real, they were unbelievably rare. Among billions of 1982 cents struck that year, only a microscopic fraction carried the copper composition. For collectors, that was a thrill like no other. Imagine billions of coins scattered across America, yet only a few held the secret. It's the closest thing numismatics has ever had to a miracle. The emotional power of this story can't be overstated. For some, it was hope. For others, nostalgia. Many remembered their childhoods, saving pennies in piggy banks and coffee cans, never realizing that one of those might be the key to unimaginable fortune. The 1982 penny brought that childhood wonder back. It reminded people that discovery still exists in the modern world, even in something as small as spare change. And as its fame grew, the penny began to influence art, culture, and even philosophy. Artists used it as a motif for transformation, turning base metal into treasure. Writers compared it to life itself, small, overlooked, but full of potential. Educators began using the story in classrooms, teaching children not just about minting and metal, but about patience and perseverance. The coin had become a teacher of values. Collectors described the thrill of holding a 1982 copper penny as unlike anything else. The reddish glow, the smooth luster, the sense of weight, it all feels different. It's as if time itself condensed into that little disc of metal. The faint portrait of Lincoln seems to stare back with knowing eyes, as though aware that this particular penny carries a secret. Its history you can hold in your hand. The market valuation continued to grow, reaching mythical heights. Some sources claimed the coin's worth had risen to $72 million, not necessarily for its material but for its rarity and mystique. Whether that figure is exact or exaggerated doesn't even matter anymore. The story itself made the coin priceless. Because value in the collector's world isn't always measured in dollars, it's measured in fascination. Even those who don't own a rare 1982 penny feel connected to it. Every time someone checks a handful of change or empties a coin jar, they're taking part in the same ritual, a quiet nod to the dream of discovery. And that collective act of searching, repeated millions of times, keeps the legend alive. It's no longer about one coin, it's about everyone's hope of finding magic in the mundane. Numismatists often compare the 1982 penny to modern folklore. It has all the elements of a great story, an unexpected hero, a hidden treasure, a mystery born from human error, and a promise of transformation. It's the Cinderella of American currency, a humble coin that turned into royalty. In interviews, veteran collectors describe the emotional rush of uncovering a possible copper specimen. Some recall trembling hands as they placed the coin on the scale, watching numbers flicker between 3.10 and 3.11 grams. Those numbers might seem small, but to a collector they feel monumental, like discovering buried gold beneath everyday soil. And still, to this day, the search continues. Each new generation learns the story, picks up a magnifier, and checks their first penny with excitement. Every coin roll opened carries a heartbeat of hope. In those small acts, the legacy of the 1982 penny lives on, not in museums or vaults, but in the hearts of ordinary people chasing extraordinary dreams. This story stands as a metaphor for everything humans aspire to: perseverance, curiosity, and the thrill of discovery. The 1982 penny isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that sometimes, the smallest things in life carry the greatest meaning. The $72 million figure, though incredible, represents more than market value. It symbolizes belief. Belief in the possibility that something insignificant can hold immense power. belief that history still hides surprises waiting to be found, and belief that the world still rewards those who dare to look closer. It's easy to overlook a penny lying on the ground, but after hearing this story, who could walk past one without wondering what secrets it holds? That's the true magic of the 1982 penny. It transformed how we see even the simplest objects. It turned a coin into a legend, and a legend into a lesson. Never underestimate the power of the small. Now pause for just a moment, and think about this. Somewhere out there, maybe in a drawer, a piggy bank, or a forgotten jar in your home, there could be a single penny, just one tiny copper coin, that's worth more than the most expensive house you've ever seen. A coin that looks like every other penny, yet silently carries a fortune hidden inside its weight. What if you have it? What if the $72 million 1982 penny is sitting right under your nose? You've been hearing about collectors, experts, and lucky people who stumbled upon unbelievable treasures. But have you ever wondered what would happen if you found one? Imagine opening your wallet, pulling out a handful of change, and one of those coins, small, ordinary, and aged, suddenly feels different. You place it on a scale. You hold your breath. The number flashes, 3.11 grams. Your hands begin to shake. That's when it hits you. This could be the one. That's the kind of moment that changes a life forever. And here's the truth, it has happened before. Real people, not just collectors, have found rare coins by accident. A retired man cleaning his basement. A teenager sorting through old coin rolls. A young collector buying unsearched pennies online for fun. Each story started the same way, with curiosity. That's the key that opens the door to discovery. So now, ask yourself, how many pennies have you walked past without looking twice? How many coins have slipped through your fingers without a second thought? Every single one could hold a secret. Every penny has potential. Because the rarest finds in history often don't come from gold mines or treasure chests. They come from pockets, jars, and dusty corners of ordinary homes. If you're watching this right now, this isn't just a video, it's your invitation to join the hunt. You don't need to be a numismatist, you don't need expensive tools. All you need is curiosity, patience, and a simple digital scale. Grab those coins, check the dates, feel their texture, and start looking for that magical number, 1982. Then weigh it. If it reads 3.11 grams, hold on tight, because you might just be holding a piece of history worth millions. But let's go deeper for a second. Think about what makes this story so powerful. The 1982 penny reminds us of something we've all forgotten, that value can hide in plain sight. In a world obsessed with luxury, speed, and technology, this tiny coin whispers a different message, that sometimes, the smallest and simplest things carry the greatest surprises. That's why millions of people around the world are now checking their pennies, not because they're chasing money, but because they're chasing possibility. They want to feel that spark, that sense of wonder that reminds them the world still holds mysteries waiting to be found. And you, right now, have that same chance. Maybe tonight you'll go through that coin jar on your shelf. Maybe you'll grab a handful of pennies from your car or dig through that old tin your parents kept for years. And maybe, just maybe, you'll find one coin that weighs differently, feels differently, looks slightly older, slightly redder. That one penny could be the one that changes everything. Even if you never find it, the journey itself is the reward. Every time you pick up a coin, you're touching history. You're holding a moment from 1982, an era of change, transition, and hidden miracles. And the more you learn, the more you realize how fascinating the smallest details can be. Now, here's the question only you can answer. Are you going to walk past the next penny you see, or are you going to stop, pick it up, and look closer? Because who knows, maybe that 1 cent could make you a millionaire. Take a second, imagine the story you could tell, the day you found the rare 1982 penny, the day a 1 cent coin became your golden ticket. Every great discovery begins with curiosity. And today, that curiosity starts with you. So before this video ends, promise yourself one thing: don't underestimate what's already around you. Somewhere, in your change, your wallet, your old collections, or maybe even under your couch, could lie one of the rarest coins in US history. A small copper disc that the mint never intended to exist, yet somehow survived time to carry a secret no one saw coming. Because that's the beauty of the 1982 penny. It's not just a story about money, it's a story about hope, patience, and discovery. And every person watching right now is part of that story. Take a deep breath. Picture your own 1982 penny. Hold it up to the light. Feel the weight of possibility. Because somewhere in those small details, those tiny ridges, that faint demon mark, that subtle difference between copper and zinc, there's a piece of magic waiting for you to find. It doesn't matter who you are, where you live, or how much you know about coins. The legend of the 1982 penny belongs to everyone who dares to believe that something incredible could be hiding in the most ordinary things. So go ahead, check your change. Search every penny. Because the next story of discovery might just be yours. And now, as this incredible journey comes to its end, take a moment to look at your hands. That tiny penny you might have ignored your whole life. That 1-cent coin you tossed into a jar or dropped on the floor. It suddenly doesn't look so small anymore, does it? Because after learning the story of the 1982 penny, you realize that even the most ordinary things can carry unimaginable secrets. That's what makes this coin so powerful. It isn't just about copper, or zinc, or a mint mark. It's about possibility. It's about how life hides miracles in plain sight, waiting for the curious, the patient, and the hopeful to uncover them. That's the heart of the 1982 penny, a reminder that history's greatest treasures don't always shine in gold. Sometimes, they gleam softly in red copper, waiting to be found by someone who simply believes. Think about it. This single coin has connected millions of people around the world, collectors, dreamers, students, families, all drawn together by a shared fascination. It's turned spare change into legend, curiosity into passion, and a forgotten year into an eternal story. The 1982 penny became more than money, it became a symbol of discovery itself. Its creation was an accident, its survival a miracle, and its journey a mystery. And that combination, accident, miracle, and mystery, is exactly what makes it timeless. Even now, decades later, people are still talking about it, searching for it, and dreaming of it. That's the power of a story that refuses to fade. Somewhere out there, maybe in a box of coins, maybe hidden in an old wallet, or maybe resting quietly in someone's hand right now, that fabled $72 million penny still exists. And its next chapter might be waiting for you to write. Imagine the day when someone, maybe even you, picks up a coin, notices the date, and feels that spark of recognition. The thrill of knowing you're holding one of the rarest artifacts ever made by human hands. The 1982 penny isn't just about luck, it's about destiny. Every time someone looks closer instead of walking away, destiny takes another step closer to revealing itself. So let this story be a reminder, not just about coins, but about life itself. The things we ignore, the small moments we overlook, the simple objects we forget, they can hold greatness beyond imagination. Just like that tiny penny, every moment has a hidden value waiting for someone brave enough to see it. 1 cent. 1 year. One mistake that changed everything. That's the legacy of the 1982 penny. A coin born from transition, preserved by chance, and immortalized by wonder. And whether it's worth $72 million or simply priceless, one truth remains unshakable. It will forever be the coin that taught the world that value is not about what you see, but what you discover. So the next time a penny drops near your feet, don't walk away. Pick it up. Turn it over. Look at the year. Feel its weight in your hand. Because in that simple moment, you're not just holding a coin, you're holding a piece of history, a spark of mystery, and a reminder that miracles don't always come wrapped in gold, sometimes, they come in copper. That's the story of the 1982 1-cent coin. The penny that defied logic. The coin that turned mistake into magic. The cent that became a symbol of possibility for the entire world. And who knows? Maybe your story starts with the next penny you find.